watching CivilNet. My name is Musharraf Khazanian, and we are coming to you here today with the newly appointed Secretary of the National Security Council of Armenia, Armen Grigoryan. Armen, thank you very much.
Thank you too for inviting me.
You might recognize Armen as a leader from the Reject Serzh movement and now a part of the government. And Armen, I want to ask something I think for our English-speaking audience being interested in knowing, what is the National Security Council? What does it do?
According to the new constitution that was adopted in 2015 in Armenia, National Security Council leads the policy formation of security of Armenia. So that's the main responsibility, is to form the national security policies. It may be about police, it may be about national security, it may be about the defense ministry. So in overall, it covers a huge sphere of public life in Armenia.
And then who makes up the Security Council? You are the secretary, and who else makes up this body?
Security Council, the Security Council is led by Prime Minister. There are also Security Council members, which are Vice Prime Minister, ministries, Foreign Minister, the head of police, the head of national security, and there are also other members who are the government members.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned with the constitutional reform, so therefore the president is not a member of this council?
The president and the speaker of the parliament, they are not anymore the member of the parliament, but the prime minister can invite them to participate. But the decision making is solely put on executive branch of the government, let's say.
And then, what are, you mentioned the responsibilities of the body. You also, I believe in a statement recently mentioned that there's some urgent agenda items that the council needs to look at. What are some of these items that you and the council will be looking at moving forward?
The most security challenges that are challenges for Armenia, we should check which are those. But in overall now it's for example the Azerbaijan's military rhetoric, and which is a challenge for Armenia. But there are also other issues that are challenges of Armenian security. For example, the stalemate of current political situation in Armenia, which is a challenge when the executive branch of the government is represented by the people, but the National Assembly is not represented by the people. So there's these issues which are challenges, but there are also a lot of things that are challenges for Armenia. For example, corruption is a very high risk for Armenia, and we should struggle. Also, rigged election is also a challenge for Armenia, and we should be prepared for a free and fair election in upcoming months in Armenia. So these are the challenges that we are thinking about, and we are in a new situation. According to the new constitution, we have a lot of responsibilities, but the structure is not yet formed in order to serve these responsibilities. So we are in transition period, and we are working on this at this moment too. For the institution that I am leading, it's a challenge to have a new structure. Mm-hmm. It's also a challenge. It's not for whole Armenia, but it's connected to the whole Armenia.
Certainly. Something we saw in the movement that took place, the Velvet Revolution, was the relationship between the police officers as well as with the movement leaders, where the words that were used very much were in support of the police. Mm-hmm. Do you think, what is the perception that the citizenry of Armenia currently has with the police force? Is this something you think is damaged? Does it have to be fixed? Where do you think that relationship
There are a lot of works to be done in order to be fixed, because during previous period there are a lot of cases when there were problems between citizens and police. But I think this revolution could break that wall in some sense. You may know that we were calling them, you are our brothers, you are our sisters. We were calling them, you are ours, if Vostikana Merne, you are ours. So we tried to change this. At this, we understand that it would not change during a very short period, but in the long run, for sure, police should serve the public interest, and that's the main purpose. And in order to serve public interest, police should be reformed in its action, in its daily actions. And there's a new, how to say, momentum to use that and to be reformed.
One of the things that we've noticed, and it's something, with the idea of transparency and building that public trust, we've noticed that with the new government and with the current prime minister and other ministers, transparency in all actions has been, it's seemingly a priority for them. We've seen the prime minister open up the world to the citizenry, whether that's within Armenian 26, chasing the jackal around most recently. How does that impact your position here? Is transparency something that you can have in this case as you go through your work, and how do you balance that?
We have the mandate of the people of Armenia to be in executive body, and one of our resources of power is coming from the public. So in order to keep public trust, in order to keep public support, you should be transparent. You can never be closed and have trust towards any institutions which is closed. It's very difficult to have trust. So coming from this and from other reasons, we are sure that we should have a transparent government, and we should do everything. What comes to me, it's usually thought that if it's about security, then everything should be closed. But I'm not coming from that perspective. I'm sure that there are cases when you should be closed. I mean, there are secret documents, there are things that are not going to be public. So in those cases, you can be closed. But in many cases, you can, and you should be transparent. For example, your office, your daily work, your expenditures, and a lot of things should be transparent. There's no any problem. I don't see any problem. And we should break this old way of approaching that. If it's about security, then everything is in secret. Because if we want to have a high security, that we should be transparent. And for us, public support is one of the most important things that we have, and in order to keep this, we should be transparent.
And you wrote an open letter to the former defense minister, Vigen Sargsyan, challenging him on the concept of panag, the nation as army, and saying that you differ on this. I want to ask, is this a political difference between camps? Is this a logical difference worthy of public debate? Where does this go?
The main difference comes from our worldview and approach, philosophical. This is also a philosophical difference. The approach that the old team had, or the old government had, is very different that we are having now. Yes, for example, an approach that you should teach the nation to have to love the country, to be patriotic. We don't have that approach. We are sure that Armenian society have high level of collective wisdom, and there's no need to teach people to love the country. People love the country. You just need to create an environment for people to self-fulfill, to give them opportunity to develop their skills, to have their creative ideas and develop this country. This is for what we are here. this is the main purpose of our government. So I think this is more philosophical difference. Then comes other differences too, but the main fundamental reason of difference comes from the worldview and from the philosophy that we and them are having inside of our minds.
Well, Armen, we want to thank you very much for coming and joining us. It's going to be very interesting watching this process and seeing some of those differences take place between this current government and the previous regimes. We want to thank you, the viewer, for watching CivilNet here. This is Mashak Hazarian. We've been coming to you with the Secretary of Armenia's National Security Council, Armen Grigoryan. We thank you very much for watching, and we'll be back with you soon.